Dueling health care bills failing to pass in the Senate as the Obamacare subsidies expiration date inches closer. And joining us right now to talk about this and much more is Republican Senator Dave McCormick from the state of Pennsylvania. And Senator, thank you for being here today.
Good morning.
I'm actually a little shocked that we are getting this close to the deadline for the subsidies being renewed, where most people have to, the deadline for signing up is Monday.
Yeah.
And nothing's been done to this point. It seems like a bit of a cliff to fall off. And I realize full well that you and a lot of other people would like to see some reforms done to this. But we came so close to the end, it seems like it's hard to believe there's not going to be an extension while that reform is taking place.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, I think, for a lot of Pennsylvanians, a lot of Americans, because a lot of working families, their premiums are going to go up pretty dramatically. If you make $50,000 a year and you have a $200 a month premium, it could be $400, and that pressure is going to be a real problem. And you got to start by saying, where are we? I mean, we've had Obamacare for 15 years. Mm-hmm. It promised lower cost, improved quality, better access. It's failed on all fronts. And what this subsidy is an extension from COVID subsidies. Yeah. And these gave subsidies to people that are making $500,000 or $600,000 a year. A lot of fraud. I
understand all of that. Look, Obamacare did do one thing very well, and that's get a lot more Americans insured, people who had been uninsured before. I understand that these are subsidies from COVID era that are extended and going through, but it's also so abrupt and seems like it's yanking the rug out from under 22 to 24 million Americans.
Well, first, I'd say two things. One, part of the reason we're in this mess is we had a 42-day shutdown that didn't resolve anything. So we're getting pressed at the end. The Democratic proposal was essentially a 3-year extension.
Oh, I looked at it. Both of these bills, it was very clear that neither of these bills would get anywhere near the 60 votes they needed to pass. What I don't understand is why there doesn't seem to be any sort of bipartisan work or talk across the table where you get something that maybe extends it for a year instead of 2 or 3 years.
Well,
3 years was what they were asking for. If you
they were asking for 3 years without any reforms.
Without any reforms, right, which was a non-starter,
The Republican alternative was putting money in the pockets through the HSAs.
But it just seems like neither one of these took into account reality.
Well, listen, I'm hopeful. I agree with you on the crunch of time. You see Senator Shaheen and some others on the Democratic side that appear to be recognizing that the current subsidies in their form cannot be extended without reform. And so I'm hopeful we'll get some reform. For me, I think the Republican proposal was a good proposal, but I'm worried about the working families in Pennsylvania who are really having the pressure on. So
I've been reading some of the town halls that you've been having and what people have been saying to you. You're going to face a lot of pressure. Yeah,
listen, I do town halls every 2 weeks, teletown halls. I get 10,000 people that show up. The questions are totally unscripted. And healthcare, housing, healthcare, energy prices are the big things. We're making progress on energy prices. We're making progress on housing. But the healthcare is a real challenge. And listen, here's the reality of it. We pay 3 times per person for healthcare than any other country in the world. Our health statistics, our longevity, our lifespan, infant mortality is terrible relative to other developed countries. And still, 25 million people don't have access to health care. So Obamacare has been an abysmal failure. We can't go forward without real reform. So there's sort of 2 agendas. One is near term. How do you deal with working families that are going to be crunched? And then in longer term, we got to do reform that gets cost under control.
Is there a movement afoot? Do you think that there will be something that comes through, or do you think this is it? What do you tell your constituents?
I think there'll be something. I hope.
You do.
I'm certainly going to be advocating we've got to do something to help working families. The current subsidies cannot be extended in their current form. We got to do something.
I hear your point about not wanting it to go to families that are making $500,000 or more, that this should be really helping out the people who need it the most.
Yeah, and listen, this is whatever we do, and I really hope we do something, it's going to be a bridge to a much broader conversation about healthcare reform. And even if you're a Republican like I am and think Obamacare was catastrophic and a real failure of the Democratic Party, we now have to deal with that problem together as Republicans and Democrats.
What specifically falls under the heading of reform that you actually think is, practically speaking, something that could be implemented?
Do you mean in the near term?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the near term, I think you got to bring down the income caps very significantly. I think you can't have an automatic extension on an individual basis without rooting out the fraud. probably some minimum payment.
So somebody's got to have skin in the game, $5, $10, $15.
Even if it's a tiny amount.
Right.
The key for that is it guards against fraud. And then you can't have a 3-year extension. So it's got to be a less extension. It's got to cap incomes, and it's got to deal with. And I love the idea that the president put forward and Cassidy Crapo put forward, which is ideally you want to have consumers have choice with some sort of health savings account that's going to help fund part of this. So those are the parameters.
That might just illuminate how much of people's health care, though, is actually covered by somebody else. I mean, in other words, the overall cost, it can't come out of people's pockets directly, even if you give them a check, right?
Well,
I mean, the whole thing of risk pooling is
it's coming out of their pockets in two ways. It's coming out of premium, and it's coming out of what payment they have to make up front as part of the first down. So the health savings account to mitigate that payment, where for most people it's $6,000 before the insurance kicks in, that $1,500 in their pockets is going to take a lot of pressure. And remember, what we're talking about here is, in Pennsylvania at least, median income outside the Philadelphia counties is $52,000 a year. So if somebody has to pay $6,000, or if somebody's premium goes from $200 to $400 a month, this is a huge deal. And so that's the segment of our population that I'm most worried about.
Senator, let's talk a little bit about AI. You've been looking through some of the implications on a societal basis and ethical basis for what AI is going to be happening. Overnight, the White House, the president putting out an executive order saying this is what we want. We want AI to be regulated by this policy that they couldn't get passed through Congress, and directing the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to go after and sue states that are trying to put their own regulations and frameworks in place. I understand that federal law should absolutely supersede state law when it comes to interstate commerce, but this is not federal law. This is a White House executive action.
Well, I thought the executive order was trying to thread the needle and hit the sweet spot very well in the following sense. So first of all, we're in an existential battle for leadership in the world on AI. If you believe the stakes are as high as I do, we have to have an innovation policy and national posture that's going to allow us to maintain the lead. So a patchwork.
But we haven't been able to get something like that through Congress.
We'll get a patchwork of state regulation is very, very significant in terms of putting us behind in terms of China. So what the executive order says is that we want to have a national innovation strategy. It says that the states can move forward on, as I agree with, on potential cases of copyright or protecting children. It also encourages and asks the David Sachs to move forward and work with Congress on a national standard. And then it has enforcement with broadband funding. And it also has, as you note, the Attorney General essentially being able to take action against overly restrictive. That balance of things, I think, is trying to do the things you said, which states need to have some freedom to deal with the issues that matter most to them. But we've got to have a national posture that doesn't put us behind. We already, look at the front page of the Wall Street Journal today with energy supporting AI. AI and energy go hand in hand. If we don't have a national posture for maintaining leadership, I fear we're going to be left behind in probably the most important thing to happen in our lifetimes.
Senator Andrew's got a question. Yeah.
Hey, Senator, just following up on where Becky was, though, and I don't think we disagree. I think we agreed that there should be a national plan, but that national plan should come from Congress. That is the job of our elected leaders to come up with the policy for the nation and to decide and determine how that policy is effectuated. In fact, you could argue that this EO is ultimately going to go to court. I mean, that's what's going to happen. And then there's going to be a debate, and maybe it'll ultimately go to the Supreme Court, for all we know. But sort of using executive orders as opposed to actually having Congress do its job, especially when you're getting into the issue of states' rights versus federal government, I would think that even
I lost him in the last
even Trump supporters would say that should be the approach.
We're just playing. I think the last thing he said was even Trump supporters would say that should be the approach.
I lost the last part of your question, Andrew, but I think I got there. It's back. I think I got the gist of it. Listen, you all know better than anybody. We are in a period of unprecedented change, the pace of change. So I agree with you. Congress needs to play its role and act. And what the president's done, which I think is a real contrast to the last administration, is laying out a pro-innovation framework for how to pursue that. And you know, I'm a strong believer the national strategy needs to be a very aligned one. The executive order lays out what that balance should be, and it also, as you suggest, lays out a path and goal of collaborating with Congress to put that national standard in place. So, you know, we're at a pace of change here where I think the president needs to step up and show leadership, which is what I think he's doing. And I agree with you that Congress needs to do the same.
What, aside from the copyright protections and protection of children in a state law, is the industry and the administration most concerned about being added in terms of regulation? I'm just curious what the stakes are.
Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different variations, but I would just point to this energy issue, which I think is a good analog. Right now, we have a patchwork of regulations and permitting across the country, across America and the different states. We have a challenge to meet the energy demands of the most transformative technology in the world. That battle for AI energy leadership versus China is critical. And it's very hard for America to be the energy dominant country it needs without a very consistent permitting approach across. So I think these national imperatives, we got to think about having the right national standards. One of the things I think we need to focus on in the Congress is permitting reform on the energy front, national permitting reform. So I think it varies by states. Look at some of the standards that California or other states are thinking about in terms of AI restrictions. And I think it poses a real risk that if those frameworks, regulatory frameworks go into place, that we're going to lose the leadership battle in terms of technology innovation.